Good evening. The Prime Minister's under fire over claims that he interfered over concerns surrounding the Evening Standard's owner getting a peerage last year. Well, 2 years ago. Boris Johnson's accused of overruling fears from our security services about Lord Lebedev's potential connections to the Kremlin. Mr Johnson denies this. The Labour Party wants the claims investigated by Parliament. Once more, the PM's connections and judgments are being called into question, as our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
He's the newspaper baron who became a real-life baron in the House of Lords.
Yevgeny Alexandrovich Lebedev, Baron Lebedev, of Hampton in our London borough of Richmond-upon-Thames, and of Siberia in the Russian Federation.
Yevgeny Lebedev's father was a Russian secret agent based in London working for the KGB. As the owner of the Evening Standard, Lord Lebedev is used to being in the spotlight. His paper sponsors a prestigious West End Theatre Awards ceremony. He's used to being in the company of royals, whether it's the second in line to the throne or the monarch herself. But now questions have been raised about his peerage after reports that the security services had concerns.
We're very surprised when he was appointed by the Prime Minister, and we were even more concerned when we learned through the press over the weekend that the security clearance personnel had a problem and that was battered off by the Prime Minister.
Hello. In 2014, Yevgeny Lebedev expanded his newspaper empire to include a TV station called London Live. As it went on air, he explained why he chose to become a Londoner.
I came here first because my father was here in the embassy, or in the foreign intelligence rather, but I then stayed on because I love the city. It has so much to offer.
In 2013, he was with London's then mayor at a school in Battersea to promote a reading project. Today, Boris Johnson denied intervening to secure Lebedev's peerage.
That is simply incorrect.
The Prime Minister, on a visit to RAF Northolt in his West London constituency, also declined to say whether he met Yevgeny Lebedev in March 2020 to discuss the peerage.
This should not turn into a general sense that we're against Russians. Any Russian living in the UK, any Russian who contributes to UK society should suddenly be under suspicion.
Labour wants Lord Lebedev's peerage referred to Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee, which is allowed access to some MI6 and MI5 secret files. We approached the Evening Standard for Lord Lebedev's reaction, but have had no reply. Simon Harris, ITV News.
President Zelensky has possibly become the face of the war in Ukraine as a wartime president that signifies a defiant country in the face of the Russian invasion. The recognition of his work has been admired globally, so much so a campaign's been launched in London to rename an area near the Russian embassy after him. We'll get to that in just a moment, but first, his work has also been recognised in the House of Commons today. He was the first person to ever speak directly to our MPs.
We will not give up and we will not lose. We will fight till the end at sea, in the air. We will continue fighting for our land, whatever the cost. We will fight in the forests, in the fields, on the shores, in the streets.
Well, him talking to the Commons is one way in which the president has battled against the Russian forces and it being recognised in many ways. But the London mayor is now supporting a campaign by the Liberal Democrats to rename Kensington Park Gardens Zelensky Avenue, the base of the Russian embassy. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
For almost 100 years, Russia's diplomats have enjoyed one of central London's most prestigious addresses. Today, the embassy in Kensington Palace Gardens is a focal point for pro-Ukraine protesters. Graffiti and an audio barrage of car horns. And now there are calls for the road to be renamed Zelensky Avenue to honour the Ukrainian president and shame Russian diplomats.
Everybody visiting the Russian embassy and the Russian ambassador himself will get a daily reminder of the horrors that the Russian government are meting out on the Ukrainian people.
Do you like the idea of renaming it?
Well, I think the borough should look at the suggestion made by residents and by Londoners. It's an important act of symbolism in relation to showing Ukraine that we support them.
There are precedents. In the Lithuanian capital, Vilnius, the Russian embassy is now on a road known as Heroes of Ukraine Street. In Tirana in Albania, the postal address of the Russian embassy is now Free Ukraine Street. And in the Latvian capital Riga, Russian diplomats work in Independent Ukraine Street. So what about London?
Street names can be changed, but there have to be exceptional circumstances. It's not immediately clear if a symbolic act of solidarity or simply embarrassing the Russians amounts to a valid reason.
And anyway, the Putin regime seems immune to any attempt to shame it into retreat. Eugenie, a Ukrainian lawyer who lives in Surrey, knows what her country really wants.
40 million people go to bed every night and they don't know if they wake up or if the bomb falls on them. So they fight for all of us, and the least we can do for them is to give them all the military support that we can. We give them the fighter jets to protect the innocent civilians, to close their sky.
That sentiment was echoed by Kensington and Chelsea Council, which has the power of veto over any name change. A spokesperson said it is action rather than symbolism, which Ukrainians desperately need. The council hasn't yet received any formal application to rename Kensington Palace Gardens. Simon Harris, ITV News.
As the construction of the high-speed rail line HS2 gathers pace, Londoners have finally been given a glimpse at one of its centrepiece developments. Euston Station will be transformed with a gold-coloured roof, no less, at a cost of £3 billion. It's one of the biggest developments in the capital since the 2012 Olympic Games. Our correspondent Simon Harris went for a look.
At 60 acres, Euston is one of the largest building sites in central London, and it's one of the capital's biggest regeneration projects. At the heart of it is a new £3 billion station for HS2, the high-speed line from London to Birmingham. But there'll also be around 3,000 new homes, as well as offices and open spaces. And this is what the new Euston station will look like, with a 300-metre-long cathedral-style vaulted roof.
When the Victorians built the original Euston in the 1830s, the station severed two North London communities, Somerstown over there and what's now the Regent's Park estate over there. Now, after 200 years apart, they're going to be reconnected.
At least that's the plan when the new station rises from the ground.
What we can do as we create this new station here and the new master plan for this place is to bring them back together, reinstating old streets, creating new ones that link east to west and north to south.
The scheme even has the backing of some HS2 opponents, like the Green Party's Sian Berry, a London Assembly member and local councillor.
It's incredibly important that they do restore links that were broken hundreds of years ago between different areas of Camden in this area, and giving people a walking route that isn't this incredibly polluted road behind me is really important too.
But there's one very big obstacle in the way of turning the dream into reality. The current Euston station will have to be demolished and replaced, but the government hasn't yet come up with a plan, let alone the billions of pounds it'll cost. And there are some families who won't benefit from the regeneration because they were rehoused to make way for HS2. 4 years ago, the Brie Louise was a thriving award-winning pub. Today, it's gone, and the landlords, Craig and Karen, have moved away.
We've still got many friends that used to live around us for all the years we were here, which was quite 15 years. We still keep in touch with them, but they've been scattered all over London now, so quite a lot of them have gone. A few of them are dead.
15 years ago, the arrival of HS1 just down the road led to the transformation of the area around St Pancras and King's Cross. That's the ambition for Euston, but the local community might have a long wait. It could be 2036 before the project is finished. Simon Harris, ITV News.
Good evening. The future of Chelsea Football Club has been thrown into major doubt today after its owner, Roman Abramovich, was sanctioned by the UK government as part of its response to Russia's Ukraine invasion. Mr Abramovich bought the West London club back in 2003 and has since led the team to Champions League, Premier League and FA Cup glory. He's said to be a close ally of the Russian president, so the government freezing his assets is specifically aimed at bruising President Putin's inner circle. But what does it mean for the Blues, their fans and their future? Well, in a moment, we'll be live outside both Stamford Bridge and Carrow Road, where Chelsea are playing tonight. But first, here's our political correspondent Simon Harris with the latest on the government's clampdown on Russia.
His links with Vladimir Putin have finally come home to roost. Roman Abramovich was named and shamed today as a Putin crony. He's one of 7 oligarchs hit with British government sanctions. The Foreign Secretary didn't hold back, saying the blood of the Ukrainian people is on their hands. They should hang their heads in shame.
What we've concluded is that there is enough connection, enough of a link between the Putin regime and the individuals in question to justify the action.
Abramovich has the highest profile of the 7 oligarchs targeted today.
According to the Foreign Office, Abramovich has a fortune of more than £9 billion. Any of that wealth invested in the UK is now frozen. He can't sell anything he owns here, and he's banned from coming here.
Which means no more visits to his biggest asset in Britain, his beloved Chelsea Football Club. But the government has given the club a special licence so it can stay in business.
Abramovich has been sanctioned, and it is important that he doesn't benefit from the club. Our priority is to ensure that the club is protected, that the fans are protected, and the national game. And the integrity of the club can still play.
In 2005, Abramovich was given £5.5 million when he sold his oil company back to the Russian government.
I have absolutely no doubt that he is close to Putin.
The Labour MP Margaret Hodge has had Abramovich in her sights for more than a year.
He made his money by entering politics at a time when the Soviet Union disintegrated and the national assets of the Russian people were privatised. That's how he made his billions.
The sanctions mean his Kensington mansion is now out of bounds to him. There was a time when life in London seemed to suit Roman Abramovich. Not anymore. Simon Harris, ITV News.
Well, let's look at the politics of all of this. Simon's joined us in the studio. So a big day of sanctions with some huge ramifications.
And some big questions. The biggest of all is what happens to Chelsea in the long term? In particular, is the club still up for sale? Now, Abramovich was clearly feeling the heat last week. He probably guessed what was coming when he announced he was looking for a buyer. But as the club is now a frozen asset, technically it can't be sold. However, the Cultural Secretary Nadine Dorries seemed to suggest this afternoon that the Treasury could issue a special certificate to allow the sale to take place. But at the same time, Abramovich would not be allowed to benefit from the proceeds of that sale. At the moment, it's not quite clear how that would work.
All right, we'll see where this ends up. Simon, thanks very much.